Hello, my name is Nicole Bandus, and welcome back to another episode of Crochet Swatch Saturday. Today we are going to be testing out the Lion brand Basic Stitch. Now, this is a yarn that used to be readily available at Joann. In fact, that is where I got it. Rip Joann. But you can still get this online. So if you are an absolute lover of this yarn and you want to find out what I think about it, stay tuned. And if you've never used this yarn, even though you can only get it online, I'll let you know whether or not it's worth buying. So let's hop over and see what we think. Let's dive in first, because one of the things that I was reading as I was working this up and checking out the reviews is that this is not a worsted weight. A lot of commenters said that it felt more like a DK weight yarn. And I gotta say, I disagree. I would definitely put this in the worsted all day long. Now, you might find some chunkier worsteds out there, but I think this is definitely classifiable as a worsted weight yarn. And with that, the label does suggest a 5mm crochet hook. So I have my trusty 5mm soft touch, and we will go ahead and start our swatch as we test this out. Now, I have to say, first impression, and one of the reasons that I do find that I go back to the Basic Stitch is because it actually feels pretty nice, pretty soft for an acrylic yarn. For those who have watched the channel for a bit, you know that I am not generally an acrylic yarn fan. And I have to say that, I gotta stop saying that, because there are definitely some pretty nice acrylics out there. I'm just not a fan of the industrial acrylics or the ones that are itchy, scratchy, like the Red Heart. Now, I know that a lot of people say Red Heart really softens up and it's a great yarn because it is very durable over time. But for me, crocheting is all about the process more than it is the outcome. So I don't want to work with a yarn that is soft, that is not soft when I work with it, but it becomes soft. I want to work with a yarn that is soft while I'm working with it, because that's what it's all about for me. So this one, the Lion brand, is really a very pleasant, very soft acrylic yarn. Is it the softest that I've ever had? No. I do think that things like the Karen Simply Soft or the Yarn Bee Soft, what is it, soft something, I did a review on that one recently. Those are definitely softer, but those also have the issue of being very slick, and sometimes they can be very splitty as well. So we're sort of out here looking for a yarn that is going to be kind of a happy compromise in the acrylic realm, something that is pleasant to work with, that has a wide color selection, and is pretty reasonably priced, right? Because, well, that's going to check most of the boxes. So let's kind of work this up. I've got 2 rows down, 2 to go. Now, as I mentioned, the Lion brand Basic Stitch used to be available from Joann. Joann is no longer in business. However, the Lion brand website does carry this yarn, and so does Mary Maxim. You can even find it in packs on Michaels.com, although I certainly would not buy it from Michaels because it is significantly more expensive on their website. I think they drop ship it from Lion brand. I don't think Michaels actually carries it, if I am correct in that kind of thinking. So Lion brand is definitely going to be the best place to get it, but Mary Maxim would be a very close second. It is unfortunate that I have not found any local stores. You know, you can't get it at a Walmart, you can't get it at a local Michael's, and certainly Hobby Lobby doesn't carry it, to my knowledge, anyway, at least not the ones around me. So you do have to buy it online, but it might be worth it if you know that this is a really tried and true workhorse good acrylic yarn for you. So that's what we're testing out today. All right, so we are almost done with our first swatch, the single crochet, and we will then move on to our double crochet swatch. For those that are not familiar, if you want to skip through this whole process and just get to the numbers, you absolutely can do that. I do a timestamp down below so you can skip right to what my review is, my final review, without hearing the actual details in the process along the way. But I think you should stick along for the ride because you can get out your own score sheet and do a better job of kind of giving your own sort of evaluation as you see what I'm working up if you follow me along with the ride. Sometimes I might give something a different score than you would, so, you know, it's a good idea. Now, some of the tests you're not going to be able to see, like the feel test, you're not going to get a good idea of that. But everything else, you can generally see what I'm doing and give it your own score. We are now working through the double swatch test, and this gives us, oops, got my split there. Did you see that? First split. I must be in the, my granddaughter is off and on takes gymnastics classes, so sometimes I think of the splits in yarn as sort of what level of a gymnastics class she is in, whether or not they can do a few splits or they are a regular splitter kind of thing. So I know, it's just kind of a cute, funny way of thinking of it. As I work through this yarn, it does remain very soft in my hand. And that's one of the things that while a yarn might feel soft as you're kind of, testing it in the store, sometimes they don't always kind of carry through with that softness as you're working with them. And they start to get a little bit unpleasant or a little bit more unpleasant as you start to work with it, and I'm not noticing that at all here. Yeah, did I do 3 or 4 rows on that single crochet? I am not sure now. Oh, well, I was not getting any splits whatsoever on the single crochet, and that's really the reason that I'm doing the number. I try and stay consistent with the number of stitches that I do, so we can just kind of compare apples to apples when it comes to things like the split count and how splitty the yarn is overall. Now, as I was looking up the reviews on this yarn, I did see an overwhelming number of reviews that were raving fans of this yarn. They loved how soft it was. They felt like it really held up pretty well in the long run for, having several washes and that kind of thing. There were a couple of low scores, but generally the low scores had a lot more to do with the fact that the yarn wasn't quite the color they thought it was, or that they hadn't gotten their yarn yet, which, really, you're rainy. You don't rate yarn based on, or don't rate anything based on whether or not you've actually received it, because people are reading the reviews and the ratings not for the service overall, but for the quality of the product that they're looking at the review for. So I generally look at those with a grain of salt and say, okay, well, that one doesn't count. So there were very, very few 1-star reviews. I think on the Lion Brand website, it was like 87% was 5 stars, 9% was 4 stars, and I think there were like 3 1-stars out of like 700 reviews. So that's pretty darn good overall. And of course, I would love to know if you use this yarn, what you've made with it, what you think of it. Would you buy it again? Is it a staple in your kind of stash? And, all that good stuff. All right, so let's kind of check this out. We are done with our crochet swatches. Let's get out our paperwork. Okay, so if you're not familiar, I do my scoring on 9 different criteria, plus a bonus section that's warnings and bonuses. And I do it on a 5-point scale, or a 5 granny square scale. So the first criteria we do is the fiber. The fiber, if it's a 5, is going to be a luxury brand fiber, something that's very high end, very high quality, a merino, a silk, a cashmere. And a poor quality is going to be something that is a harsh synthetic, or, really an industrial kind of acrylic, or something that is just, kind of more mass produced, that kind of thing. So for this, we're going to put this is a high quality acrylic in my perspective, and I would put that as a 3. Now the feel. Cloud-like is going to be like that boutique softness, zero irritation. I would absolutely use it as a baby blanket or a baby garment, something like that. Whereas 1 is going to be super abrasive. That's going to be that, Red Heart scrubby yarn where it's like plastic. That would be what I would put on the super abrasive kind of criteria. This, I would say, is going to be a 4. It is actually super pleasant for an acrylic yarn. Not the most amazing, but definitely higher than what most acrylics would be. Okay, so the color range. If you go to the Lion Brand website, there are 37 different colors of the Lion Brand Basic Stitch Anti-Pilling. And that includes things like prints and different kind of colorways like that. So with 37, that puts us at a 3. Had to double check on that for a second. Splitting. I only got 1 split. So with 1 split, we are going to put that as a 4. It is pretty darn reliable. You might need to kind of double check it on your end, but I could probably do a pretty quick crochet with this. Stitch definition. Now this is a gray yarn, so it might be a little bit harder to see. Maybe I should have used the other color, but this one was already kind of in use. I would say it's actually pretty decent with just a hint of a halo. So I would say let's give that a 4. Because even the double crochet, you can see those stitches. There is a tad bit of a halo, but not bad at all. All right, so for the drape test, this is where we sort of hold it up and let gravity do its thing and see how it goes. It is generally, it is flopping over. Well, the single crochet is not flopping over at all. So it is, I would say this is definitely not a drapey yarn at all. And if drapey is what you're looking for, that's not going to get you here. So we're going to put this in the, I've got to put it as a 2. 2 generally says that it barely dips when held horizontally, and the double crochet did fall. The single crochet did not fall at all. So Froggability. Let's test, see how easy this is to frog. And I like to do this with some speed. No problem. Easy peasy. All right, so we're going to give that a 5. Totally seamless on the Froggability. Washability, this stuff is amazing. It, as is most acrylics, you can wash it in warm water, you can throw it in the dryer. The only thing you don't want to do is iron it. So we're going to give this the 5, which is the husband-friendly level. All right, now price. Okay, so this is not going to be your red heart. And there are definitely going to be some cheaper acrylics for how much of this you get, because for this you get 100 grams, 185 yards, and the regular price on this on the Lion brand website is actually $3.99, which is interesting because when I bought it from Joann's, the price they had it at was $6.49. So I don't know if it's just because it's on their website, but even Mary Maxim was $3.99 regular price. So it is a very reasonable price, and it is just over 2 cents per price per yard. So at that puts it as a 4. So anything 2 cents and under gets the 5 ultra budget friendly. A 4 is a very affordable 3 to 6 cents per yard range. Now, warnings and bonuses. This category, I would say I'm going to give it 1 warning because it is only available online. That's a real bummer. So that's a -1. But at the same time, this is an anti-pilling acrylic. And anti-pilling acrylics are supposed to take a lot more wear than a normal acrylic. So for that, we're actually going to give it a +1. So those two kind of wash out. All right, quick math here. This yarn earns a 3.8. That's, that's pretty respectable for an acrylic yarn for sure. The 2 areas that are most concerning, really drape. Drape is going to be your biggest concern on this one. So if you're looking for something that's great for cardigans or, heavier weight sweaters, this is going to be a wonderful yarn. But if you're looking for something that's more of a summer drapey kind of cool, this is not going to cover it for you. So that is definitely what I would put this at. I definitely like this yarn a lot. And for an acrylic yarn, it is one of my main go-tos. But I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. And if you have a favorite yarn you'd love me to review, let me know that too. And we'll see you next week.